Okay, we've been talking about trigger processing. I'm going to go down to @WLF. We've been talking about key processing, key trigger. But you remember when I said that when leaving fields are ended, absolutely the trigger pointer stops running completely. It finishes the process when you encounter a screen key or an end key or a couple others that I haven't told you about yet. This is true of when leaving and when entering. They have those 4 or 5 things that stop them. This is not true of key processing. Key processing will just keep plodding on until it hits an end statement. It's just like the input trigger and the input pointer in that regard. It has to hit an end before it's completely finished and done with its work. Now let's show why how that's important. You might want to do things before you hit an end statement. Let's do this. You remember we have email on this customer record. Let's do an @key E. Okay, and in this @key E, I want to just enter email. I don't want the user to have to press a U to update the record and then tab or use their cursor to go all the way around to the email field, then enter the email and so forth. I don't want that to happen. I want them just to go right to the email field. So I'm going to say screen space, comma, what's the email field? I'm going to go take a look, and the email field is field 11. So I'm going to put them in screen 11. I'm going to put a semicolon, and I'm going to say end. Here's the true end. Remember I said in when leaving field, it will never go past the screen and do anything after a semicolon. Key processing is a slightly different trigger, and it absolutely will. First, it will put them in this screen, and then they'll put their cursor on the screen, and it waits patiently right here at the end of the command until whatever's next. And in this case, we just want it to end. So let's try this. Here, this guy already has an email. Let's go to record doesn't have an email. Now, I know that if I press the key E, there, my cursor is right in here. Oh, what happened? I did the same thing on a CD record, on @CD equals null, or on a new record. Very bad. So what do you always try and remember to do with keys? You try and ensure that the record is not new before you do the function. So we're going to put that same little piece of code, which happens to be line 24. So I'm going to use the block functions, F8, copy line 24 to 24, just one line, and I'm going to copy it to line 27. See what that did? Very nice. Now, by the way, there are a bunch of spaces here, and then the processing starts up. If I just press escape, I know FilePro will close up all blank spaces for me. Okay, now let's go and use this correctly written @key. Oops, sorry. We'll go into B and quantitative and add. We'll go to a record. This is not a good record. This record, if I try and press E on, is now not going to allow me to do it. I press E, nothing happens. Let's go to a used record. Here's a record that it's Jim Hazard, doesn't have any email. I press E, and I can type jlasman@telos.net or whatever his, and that happens to be Jim's address. Jim, incidentally, is the leading, and I mean worldwide, authority on HP PCL, HPGL, and all the FilePro print code tables that are also, some of them are used PCL. Jim wrote most of them. But I have to give him a little plug because he's helped me for 10 or 15 years, 15, 17 years, 20 years, who knows, a long time, with lots of stuff dealing with PCL and certainly with file code, print code tables, output tables, and so forth. He's a good resource. Anyway, you saw that the E key worked. If I press the down arrow and I press E, it just jumps me to, I can put xxx@something.com. Got to spell it right, whatever. Actually, I'm going to be edit on this thing. There are email edits where you have to type in an email correctly. You at least have to have an @ sign in the field, and after you make sure there's an @ sign, you have to make sure there's something dot with either like a gov or a mil or something. People have written some elaborate edits. I'm going to press delete. But you see that by using some @key processing, we're not doing any input processing, really. It's on the input table. We're not running the input processing, which happens when we press escape. We're running a little kind of routine called a trigger processing routine to just do something quick. And, like if I press the C key, I pop the last date and time. And if I press the E key, I get to put in an email. Fred at hello.com. And I press escape. By pressing escape, I end. Why do I end? Why did I go back to enter? Let's just go take a look at that. And I will show you. If we go to the input table, we go to the at key E processing. Okay, what it's doing is saying, if the record's new, end, don't do anything. Otherwise, put them in this screen. I'm literally on the screen, and my trigger processing pointer is sitting right here, waiting to do the next thing. And since I'm on a screen, the way you leave a screen and store it, at the bottom of every FilePro screen it says press escape, or in case of Windows, press escape to store the record. And that means run the processing pointer, whatever processing pointer happens to be running at the time. In this case, I'm not updating the record, so the input processing pointer isn't going to run. The trigger processing, which I am running, runs, and it says go to the next command, which happens to be right after the semicolon, and it ends. This semicolon could be here. This end command could be down here. Still going to happen. FilePro is going to put them on this screen, and when they press escape, it's going to fall through to the next if test it. There's nothing to do, so it's going to end.